All right. Okay, here we go, everyone. Yep. Let me check everything. It's a little bit of a stormy day here in Denver. A little bit of a stormy day, but we're covered. Yep. But we are covered. Okay. Let me send that to Roger, and we're good to go. Do this. Okay. And we'll go like this. Ah, Jesus. Look at that. I meant to send him that, and it did not fire. All right, but we should be okay. Look at that. All right. And we're alive. Again, a little bit of a rainy Monday, folks. Yep. We're going to start in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. I apologize to Roger. There's our links. I had earlier. Oh. And it didn't send, but it's been a busy day, but we're going to be okay. Yes, we'll bring you the latest. Obviously, I'm up at the courthouse, but then we're also going to do politics this week with Justin Katz, who's the managing editor for anchorrising.com. And we're going to, folks, we're going to start in 3 minutes. Yes. And we're good to go. Excuse me. We're a little high there. We'll do this. Here we go. We can tilt it. Just like that. Okay. There we go, everybody. Yes. Can't believe that. All right. Thank you, Bendy. Yes. All right. All right. All right, folks, another busy week. Tomorrow morning, Court TV. With the great Julie Grant. Coming up Friday, Fox Nation on the Karen retrial. Thursday, Newsmax. So Court TV tomorrow, Tuesday. Newsmax Thursday. Friday, we go full 45 minutes, excuse me, on the Karen retrial. On Fox Nation. All right. Now, so I had to leave the courthouse a few minutes early. Okay. This whole thing of her and I don't think it's going anywhere, but we'll walk through it. I think it depends. Some people are like jumping up and down. Let me just see. I would think we're going to be breaking very soon for lunch. Excuse me. Okay, and we're going to be live in 1 minute. The harassment or something. Okay, now 1:06. 1:06 in the afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the real news. Now, right now, 106 on this Monday. We can't complain. It was actually a beautiful weekend. We are live right now, AM 1380, 99.9 FM. Now, you can always listen online at our website, depetro.com. Not sure exactly what that is. Oh, someone's breaking down some equipment. Don't be alarmed. Now, as we speak, we are also live on our Facebook page. We're live on X, and we're also live on YouTube. But again, right now, 106. Let me just check the forecast for the remaining part of the afternoon. It doesn't matter, obviously, when you're sitting inside a courtroom. Okay, but it is a chilly day. I'll say that. We're in Dedham. Feels like 48. Hey, actually, the sun's going to come out this afternoon, and it looks dry for tonight. Now, I thought I saw that it's going to be, it's going to be rainy. It's going to be rainy in Providence. All right, but it's going to be, maybe we'll do road patrol Dedham. Who knows? But right now it's 107, folks. And once again, I am inside the courtroom. So this will be the lunch break. I would think they're going to be breaking any moment. And actually, we will see some activity of people then coming down the stairs. I can actually even move, so then we even get, as I think of it, even get a better shot a little bit of across the street where the courthouse is. So not that I need to play around with it that much, or actually maybe we'll just leave it like that. So we don't want to play around that much. Okay, this portion of our program, folks, on this Monday, as we start a new week. And by the way, there was a big week on Road Patrol Live, especially Saturday night. That was pretty interesting with everything going on. And then we had the actual shooting victim. We haven't done a lot of that, where we cover someone that was shot on Saturday night, and then we interview them, Adonis, on Sunday night. But this portion of the program on this Monday, May 5th, and it's brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Now remember, Mother's Day is coming next weekend. Stop in. Everything they have available for Mother's Day: annuals, perennials, trees and shrubs, hanging pots, 10-inch, 12-inch moss baskets. They have hanging impatiens that look fantastic. Get your mom some pansies and marigold bags, or a large selection, beautiful patio pots, vegetable plants and herbs, tropical mandavillas, hibiscus plants, screen loom mulch are available, pickup and delivery, mulch, dark piney black, hemlock, crushed stone. Stop in. They're a full-scale nursery. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. Now, coming tonight, excuse me, we will have an update on the Pawtucket firefighters. I recognize a lot of people saying, what's happened to that story? I have new information on the story. As you know, 8 firefighters in Pawtucket are out. Allegations of not only drug use, but selling drugs. We're going to have an update coming up later tonight on depetro.com. And don't forget, depetro.com is brought to you by the COE Sit-In. Hey, Mother's Day, next weekend. A lot of people, maybe you take mom out on Saturday night, or maybe on Mother's Day, which is Sunday. The COE Sit-In, 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. You can bring your entire family. They can handle a large group. It's going to be a big weekend, Mother's Day weekend at the COE Sit-In. And remember, folks, lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge or the market at COE Sit. They're waiting for you at the COE Sit-In. Now, I just want to set the stage. Again, we are in Dedham. We're outside of the Karen Reed trial. It's the Karen Reed trial. You know, they're still in session. I don't see any activity. Normally, we'd see the people coming out. So I would imagine, and I will check, but I want to walk through what happened this morning. And I believe that the prosecution, as I was sitting there, you have to understand, I believe that they are weaving a very, very effective story for the jury. And what I mean by that is it's a Monday. And number one, the jury is refreshed. But there is a theme. As I was sitting in that courthouse all morning long, and I'll be back in there this afternoon, there is a theme that is coming through. And it's very key, and it's simple to understand. There's yet another paramedic on the stand Katie McLaughlin. And what is she saying once again for the jury? She heard the defendant, Karen Reed, say, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. So let's just, earlier, you had two witnesses, or three witnesses that just happened to be at the house. One of them rode home with the McCabe's. Inside, who did she not see? Never saw John O'Keefe inside. What I want you to understand at 111 on this Monday, and this is in fact day 9 now, day 9 of the Karen Reed trial, that the theme that's coming out is there was heavy drinking, and then there were some people inside the house at 34 Fairview. But ground zero, as I have said, continues to be the flagpole. And the flagpole, as Hank Brennan continually bring it out, and it's actually a pretty simple story to understand. So you did have Sarah Levinson. She was inside. She got a ride home with the McCabe's. What did she say? She never saw John O'Keefe inside the house. She rode home with the McCabe's. Hank Brennan uses an opportunity again to bring the jury to the flagpole. And every time you hear the flagpole and they show it, remember the jurors were there, not this past Friday, but the Friday before that. So this is someplace that they visited. Then you had, I thought Sarah Levinson was a very strong witness for the Commonwealth. Heather Maxson, she dated Ryan Nagel. She's another one. She saw Karen Reed in her black SUV. She never saw John O'Keefe going into the house. So there you have it. Then you have Ryan Nagel. And I thought Ryan Nagel was a very effective witness. He's very polite. The jury's following him on every word. He's just an every person. But he was dialed in, right? He was dialed in. He was not, part of the big group inside and so forth. He was there to pick up his sister. He saw Karen Reed in the SUV with the dome light on. He may have caught it right after she had hit him. Folks, what I want you to understand, and the reason I'm mentioning these, I thought he was a very solid witness. He saw Karen Reed in her SUV. He did not see John O'Keefe going into the house. And the same thing with his former girlfriend. Did not see John O'Keefe entering that house. What I want you to understand is the jury is following a very easy to understand story. It's not complicated so far. When they show the outside, they've already seen the clips. I don't understand. Every time they hear the defense even mention, well, did she say I hit him, or did she say could I have hit him? I don't think it helps. But that's just my impression of it. I don't see how that helps your cause. I think it's a very easy story to understand. And what also just jumps out at me, and there's two different trials. I see people posting things on social media, and they're jumping ahead. And they're jumping ahead on things that maybe happened in the last trial. This is a different trial. And Hank Brennan's making all the difference. I will tell you that inside the courtroom, when Alan Jackson gets up, he's not talking to the jury. He's not talking to the witness. He's yelling. He's a yeller. Who wants to be yelled at? Hank Brennan is talking to the jury. Hank Brennan's talking, the special prosecutor, to the witnesses. Jackson's the assassin. He's just on the attack. He's just yelling. What are you talking about? Katie McLaughlin, the paramedic. Jackson keeps attacking first responders who were there trying to save the life of Officer John O'Keefe. They attacked Nuttall. Nuttall was there trying to save the guy. Alan Jackson was screaming at Jen McCabe, who was doing chest compressions. I'm telling you right now on this Monday that it is, I've yet to see, so all these people that have taken the stand, we're to believe that they're all part of a murder conspiracy. Folks, they can't even get John O'Keefe inside the house. Now, I also saw that people are starting to say, I never believed the house, I thought the garage. How many times are you going to change the story? I want to point something out. This isn't a great analogy, but just hear me out. let's just say you have a roommate and you come home and you have money missing out of your room. And then you talk to the roommate and you say, there's money missing out of your room. And the roommate says, I wasn't even home. Okay. And then you later establish, well, wait a minute, you were home. And the roommate says, well, I was home, but I didn't go in your room. Then you establish, well, wait a minute, you know, we had someone else over and they saw you in the room. The roommate says, all right, I was home, I did go in the room, but I didn't touch the money. Folks, what did you just demonstrate? They went from I wasn't home to I wasn't in your room to I was in the room, but I didn't take the money. Do you understand how these things fall apart? This is happening right now in real time with the Karen Reed defense. They go from he was beaten in the house to now they're saying, well, he wasn't beaten in the house, he was in the garage. How many times are you going to keep changing the story? I am telling you right now, as I sit in that courtroom, the idea that all of these people, Katie McLaughlin, Ryan Nagel, the two witnesses from this morning, the former girlfriend of Ryan Nagel, Sarah Levinson, the idea that all of these individuals, and Jen McCabe, and Kerry Roberts, and they're all part of this murder conspiracy to take the life of John O'Keefe and pin it on Karen Reed. It is beyond absurd. There's nothing remotely close to showing that it happened. Now, maybe the defense will show it. But I'm telling you right now, where we sit on this Monday, they would have been better off with a spaceship landed and it was some foreign aliens that took them out. Because it is preposterous as you're watching Nuttall and Katie McLaughlin, the first responders, who are really there because they called 911 to do their job. The idea that they're part of this, I'm just telling you, inside the courtroom, it's not grounded in reality. It's not even close. I think the jurors are even saying, like, what are we doing here? She was wildly drunk. She was saying, I hit him. She's got the cracked taillight. She was acting like a lunatic. Like, I think the jury is thinking, like, am I missing something? Why are we even having a trial here? Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Propane Plus. Remember, Propane Plus, call them today, 401-885-4209. In Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. For Propane Plus, heating and cooling, Rhode Island and Massachusetts. You can always check them out online at propaneplus.com. This portion of the program is also brought to you by Roofco. Now, it's raining today. Maybe you have some leaks in your roof. Call Roofco Rhode Island. Free quote, 401-868-7149. 401-868-7149. Roofco Rhode Island. They'd be happy to inspect your roof. Have you been thinking maybe it's time for a new roof, home, or business? Or maybe you want a free inspection. Find out if there's wind damage. Your insurance company, they'll cover that. Roofco Rhode Island. Wind damage, leaky roof, missing lifted or curled shingles, granules in the gutter, damaged chimney flashing. Roofco Rhode Island. 401-868-7149. Look for them on Facebook. Again, this is a good time of year, next few months. Have a new roof put on your home or business. Roofco Rhode Island, 401-868-7149. Now, coming up, we are going to talk with Justin Katz, politics this week. I'm going to cut up some of these cuts a little bit later. Lieutenant Governor Matos. I didn't see the full sit down. She did a full interview on Newsmakers, or they played it on Newsmakers with Channel 12. I can't believe this person is Lieutenant Governor. It's also, I don't think it's highlighted enough that this is the first interview she's done in 2 years, and she's Lieutenant Governor. We're going to talk about that, but I'm coming up with Justin Katz, managing editor at anchorrising.com, during our segment of politics this week. But folks, in staying with the Reed case, and I get it, because there's a lot of people that were drawn to the case because they believed the initial impression. I also notice a lot of the Karen Reed supporters, they never answer anything. They're always firing questions. What about the solo cups? What about the leaf blower? What about John was going up and down steps? What about the Google search? What about the dog bites? They never answer anything. But I am telling you, watch as this case is progressing. Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, he is tying together a very easy to understand story that illustrates what happened that night. And I also want to touch on, for anyone that feels like, what's the big deal? And why is this being covered? And why is this in the news? You know why? Because everyone has to be held accountable. And this person, Karen Reed, she doesn't get out of it just because she's a female. Some people can, okay, good. Judge calls for 45 minutes lunch break. Good. All right. Hey, we're good till 2 o'clock. What's this? Recrossed by, okay, so good. They're at lunch. So you don't get to. And I also, for the people that say, like, what's the big deal and why is this? That to me, you're insensitive to people who have lost a family member. You're insensitive if you say that to anyone who has lost a family member to a drunk driver. The O'Keefes deserve an answer as to what happened to him and what I believe. So don't be so dismissive. I don't get it. Who cares? Listen, you would care if that was your family member. They were depending on him. That niece and nephew, they were depending on him. John O'Keefe took over for the sister and the brother-in-law, and he got a crazed, deranged girlfriend who had a lot of substance abuse problems, and he couldn't get rid of her. And now she's trying to pin the blame on everybody else. But I am telling you, the view inside the courtroom, Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan is weaving together a very easy to understand story. And why that's important, think of it going to, everyone talks about a good film, but then think of like a bad film you've seen. I've seen films that it's a motion picture and you're back when we used to go to the theater, now I just watch things streaming, but I can't follow the story. I remember, I won't say who, but there are certain reporters and news people that they don't tell a story well. They don't tell a story that's easy to understand. Hank Brennan is laying out very easy to understand story. And I also want to point out, the defense will get their chance. The defense is going to, Karen Reed, they're going to get a chance to put on their defense. And I'm telling you, I can't wait because Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan is going to rip it, totally destroy the friggin' witnesses. I can't believe the people that don't fully pay attention. Like, there are some people that are still talking about Arca. Arca, I can't wait for Arca to testify. I'm going to be celebrating when Arca comes. That guy is a weasel. They're worms. Brennan's going to tear them to shreds. That lady, Marie Russell from the West Coast, the dog, she's a fraud. He's going to destroy her on the stand. You know what else? All these people are pointing to the former Rhode Island medical examiner. She's agreed to testify, obviously being paid. That lady is a nutcase. The night of the station nightclub fire, she wouldn't go to the scene. She wouldn't go to the scene. They were calling her every hour, whatever her name is, and she wouldn't go to the scene. There were 100 dead people there. She's the medical examiner. There's something she got fired for it. She's the big defense medical person. They got to crucify her on the stand. Folks, this portion of the program. Now remember, when disaster strikes, lightning, or, obviously fire, flood, water damage, mold, ServPro Providence. ServPro of Providence. Give them a call. When disaster strikes 24/7, you can count on ServPro Providence. 401-941-5500. 401-941-5500. ServPro of Providence. Fire, water damage, something happens to your home or business, you have a fire, and then it's damaged because of all the water they have to use to put out the fire, you want to call ServPro of Providence. That's who I'd call, 401-941-5500. Well, folks, good afternoon. It is time for Politics This Week with Justin Katz, managing editor of anchorrising.com. Before I bring on Justin, though, I do want to mention about J. Perry Paving, because let's see, Bob asked me about J. Perry Paving. Free estimate. Any project. J. Perry Paving. Give them a call. High quality, fair pricing, exceptional service. Remember, they also have a great package for veterans. J. Perry Paving, 401 732 1730. You need your driveway paved, parking lot, letter J, J. Perry Paving, 401 732 1730 for J. Perry Paving. Well, folks, it is time. Let's bring him on. He is the managing editor for anchorrising.com. We're going to come back to Karen Reed commentary again. It's Monday. I'm going to be going back. We're in the lunch break. I will be going back after 2 o'clock for the afternoon session. But folks, let's bring him on. He is the managing editor of Anchor Rising, and it is Justin Katz. Good afternoon, Justin.
Good afternoon, John. Great to
Justin,
see you.
Good to see you. I want to start off with the interview that I actually don't think it's gotten enough attention, and I'm talking about on the Channel 12 Newsmakers program. I think they ran the entire interview in its entirety, but it's the interview with Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos. They've touted it as an exclusive. I haven't seen anybody really go through the interview the way we're about to, and then I'm going to lift some of the clips. I have a lot of thoughts on it, but I want to just hear some of your initial thoughts. It also, it struck me, this was and is the only interview, the first interview she's done since her failed run for Congress. And Justin, that was in 2023. So you think about it, she went all of 24, no sit-down interviews. Now she's floating out, she wants to run for re-election. But I want to start off and hear your thoughts, the Channel 12 interview with Lieutenant Governor Sabina Matos.
Well, I think overall, the biggest thought I had about it was how poorly done it was. And I found it surprising because, Kim Kalunian's not new to this. She's been in journalism for decades at this point. And questions were very soft, she was not trying to draw anything out of Matos. And it felt like, I don't know if she was restrained or if that's her normal style, but that was really what came off. And to me, it amplified rather than downplayed how kind of mediocre of an elected official and candidate Matos really is. She had no real, she was conversant on the issues. She's done her homework to some extent, but there's just nothing compelling about her. She doesn't go deeply into any issues. And it was just kind of those two things it reinforced my general feeling that Rhode Island is not run by people who in any other circumstances would be able to dominate our government and news media, except that it's just so corrupt and friendly, like they're all buddies and pals. That's the only reason I could see that people like this are running our state,
There were I want people to understand what Justin's referring to is there were no real hard-hitting follow-up questions. Follow-up question is someone, she says something, and then you could say, let's I want to drill down on that a little bit more, whatever. Let's go back to that. Justin, I also want to position this. I agree with you. I can't believe how unimpressive the lieutenant governor is. I think there was a lot more room to go in on the signature scandal, which is still out there and unresolved. But I want to just step back for a moment. And again, I'm not trying to be mean or rude or disrespectful, but to me, something that jumps out is, and I understand that for Lieutenant Governor Matos, English is her second language. But how about the fact that if you really listen, she uses improper grammar during the course of the interview. And I think she's given a free pass because if this were someone who was, born in North Providence or Cranston, I think it would be highlighted a little bit more. I know that, for instance, Kathy Gregg of the Providence Journal, she used to kind of mock some of the grammar that Pat Cortellessa would sometimes use when he was talking or tweeting and things like that. Matos gets a free pass, but did you notice that she just, and it's, little stuff, but she uses improper grammar when she's speaking.
Well, what really jumps out, and I think even more than journalists not maybe mocking or what have you, which I've seen as well, but she's just given so much space to work her way around the language, to filibuster in effect, whereas in a real hard-hitting interview with somebody like, say, Kathy Gregg, with somebody who she disagrees with is just about all Republicans, you would expect more. Okay, I'm not going to let you filibuster. I'm going to talk over you. I'm going to get you to your answer before, I'm not going to just let you ramble on. And I think we saw a lot of that. And at one point, it was even Matos went into talking about how she was worried about disappointing her father.
Yes.
After the signature scandal. And Kim Kalunian said, "I'm sorry you had to go through that." I mean, it just that was this whole temper of the interview, and I think she's just given space to talk through her talking points in language, whatever will let you just. And it's almost like the language she uses that to her advantage to draw out her answers and not get a response because the interviewer is afraid of looking like a bully. Of course, that's only because they're on the same side ultimately.
I'm sorry you had to go through that. What about the taxpayers? What about the fact that we had to go through that? And on top of that, she put her father through that. She's the one in charge of the scandal. She's ultimately responsible, Justin. I don't even see, she can try to tell and spin a sob story, but she's the one that brought that on. Now, any other thoughts on that, or we're going to move on? I just found it, for someone who has been the lieutenant governor now since April of 21. I mean, here we are, May of 25. And Justin, I just continue to find her wildly unimpressive. I'm willing to bet that with a state that has a population of over 1 million, I am willing to bet that we can find someone better suited for the job, more competent for the job, just someone that when you listen to them, you would feel, okay, this is someone who's, plugged in.
Well, I think there's zero doubt that out of 1 million people, we could find somebody better and more suited to the job. The real question and the real problem Rhode Island has is, can we put somebody better in office? And I tend to doubt it. I mean, we just from the top down, we seem to not be able to get the right people to the right offices. Our state's so corrupt, that's just not allowed.
I mean, she was basically put into that position by McCabe in an attempt to try to get the Hispanic vote in Providence, and she's a female Latina, but I don't think she's been a successful lieutenant governor. I mean, I think she's been a failure. Speaking of former governors, Justin Katz, Gina Raimondo, former governor, former Commerce Secretary Raimondo, at a interview at the University of Chicago, she dropped that she's seriously looking at a run for president for 2028. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, to some extent, my thought is, why not? I mean, the Democrats' bench at this point is so thin. There's nobody really impressive. What they try to do, you catch it from now and then, especially with, say, Mayor Pete. We do an interview, and all of the progressives and Democrats jump in and go, "Oh, what a great presidential material!" But they're just trying to propagandize and force it. That's how poorly off they are. They've got nobody, and so Raimondo still has some business acumen. She was Commerce Secretary, but it really goes to show that she is floating this, and that other people are actually taking it seriously. How little there is on the Democrat side to actually put somebody forward whom people know and who has accomplished things and is worthy of being a president of the United States.
Justin, I think, and I spoke about this with someone else, that Raimondo, to me, I don't get the feel and sense that Gina Raimondo, former governor, former Commerce Secretary, I don't think she's the Democrat Party of 2025. And what I mean by that is, there she is, University of Chicago. They did say some questions. The room looked sparse. There was no big news out of that. There were no good soundbite clips that I've seen that have come out of that. If you put AOC in that room at the University of Chicago, I think there's a news story that students were sleeping out overnight, that the room is packed, that she's coming out with, throwing raw meat, and there's applause lines, and there's sound bites. And I think the same thing, maybe even if you, obviously like a Bernie Sanders, but Mayor Pete, even the governor of Illinois gave a speech in New Hampshire. He's obviously got his eyes on 28, and he starts talking about, we got to fight everywhere. To me, Gina Raimondo's style, I don't know, Justin. I don't get the sense that's where their party is right now.
Well, it certainly is not, but they've got a long history in the Democrat Party of putting people in office whom the people didn't support. There's still internal squabbles within the party about how Hillary Clinton was able to become essentially inserted, Joe Biden inserted as a candidate. that's been basically the lane she would get into. I think Raimondo, that she'd be the more safe one that the people behind the scenes would push into office while the progressives ranted and raved. But I think that's what would make her plausible, is that division. It's not the person who the Democrats want to elect democratically who gets to be the presidential candidate. It's who the people in the back rooms of the Democrat Party decide to put forward.
Now, also Justin Katz, state senator, now Senate President Val Lawson, has the votes and is new Senate president. She's got Frank Chacon as her number 2. To me, the real headline here should have been organized labor holds the grip on the state Senate. I find it, Justin, I'll just say it, and people may not read, she's the head of NEA Rhode Island. To me, the state is broken by having her as the Senate president. It is an absolute conflict of interest. Her agenda is not for residents. Her agenda is not for the taxpayers. She is there to continue to just protect and further the interests of labor. And I've yet to see a real hard-hitting piece illustrating that in a real state with real leadership, Lawson and Frank Chacon should not be the number 1 and number 2.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think what it captures, we Rhode Island, this certainly crosses a line. And social media commentaries caught this with Joe Powers of the Republican Party,
yes,
saying, the state is now fully taken over by the public sector union bosses. Actually, I think said he swan dived off the socialist cliff, which is accurate as well. But Gary Sass, who's been a level-headed, right of center, economically focused commentator in Rhode Island for decades, he said, well, what's the difference? What really changes? And what changes is that there's a value to having people feel like they have to pretend they're objective. That need for them to pretend that has some protective force. That's gone now. We don't have that anymore. We are now just whatever. Who's in charge of the NEA? All right, you're the Senate president. It's good thing Shakarty's in office, because otherwise he'd be out and Pat Crowley would be AFL-CIO boss and Speaker of the House. That's where we're headed unless people start to wake up. But it is a big deal, and it's so disappointing that we don't get news media making front page stories or editorials or interviews with, is this really appropriate? Isn't there something here? Let's interview academic experts on good government and democratic elections. Where's John Marion of Common Cause saying,
right,
what, maybe special interests shouldn't have 6-figured salaried people as the president of the Senate? None of that, because they're just letting the veils fall. But it's definitely a line we've crossed, and I hope we can go back from it.
And this is, this is then a war, and it would be, and I don't think people fully get that. This becomes legislation, war on charter schools, on Catholic schools, on private schools. She is there for one reason, and it's to move the agenda for organized labor. It has nothing to do with the taxpayers, and it's appalling. Someone in that position, regardless who it is, as you had even said in the past, at least Ruggiero had stepped down from the laborers when he took over. Look at now. Now you don't even have to step down. Justin, some recent fundraising figures came out. And again, Helena Folks is continuing to, churn up the money. I think she raised $600,000, McKee a little over $250,000. What do you make of that? And what do you make of the fact she still is AWOL and is not even actively out there?
Well, I mean, we can say it again. She won day of voting against McKee.
Yes.
So she's in the running. And I think she presents, McKee is just so, I want to say goofy, but that sounds fun and pleasing, but he's just so goofy in a bad way and kind of stumbling through office. And it's just so clear. And he sold his soul to the labor unions.
He did.
She was an alternative to that. And I think that's where that money is going. I don't know that she's certainly, I hear she's traveling around the state quietly, but she's definitely not making a splash to get tons of money. Shakarty actually beat he as well. I think there's a lot of money and a lot of Democrat support in Rhode Island, just looking for some alternative, some way to. We talked earlier about how can we get somebody better than Matos in office? They're just trying to find some way to get somebody better than McKee into office, and I think she's the beneficiary of that search.
And folks, it's time for Katz's Corner, and this is a story that Justin Katz has found. And what do you have for us this week, Justin Katz?
So the American Transportation Research Institute recently released their annual congestion report. And this is metro areas throughout the United States. They rank them for how quickly they use trucks as their measure, can get through from end to end, their average speed. Rhode Island has jumped up. We were 41st most congested last year. Now, thanks to the Washington Bridge, largely, we're 25th most congested. And so it shows you how difficult it is to live here. And I think the important point to me, and the analysis needs to go a step farther, is you look at some of the other metros, major cities, Fort Lee, New Jersey, right outside of New York. These are places with billions of dollars of GDP where you expect congestion. Rhode Island, we're wallowing. We're probably within recession now. We're at least on the verge of it, even as the national economy improves. We've got nothing to show for our congestion. It's just bad infrastructure. I think that's the point that really needs to be home a lot more around here.
Folks, again, you can read a lot about Justin at anchorrising.com. Justin, excellent job as always, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you, John. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, folks, there it is. Justin Katz, managing editor of anchorrising.com. And again, our segment, Politics This Week. Now, right now, it is 1:42. It's Monday, May 5th. I will be going back across the street. We're in the lunch break for the Karen Reed trial, and I'm going to talk about that for the rest of this hour. Folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by, remember, if you're thinking right now, whether it's your home or your business, Arch Design Builders. I want you to call my friends Ed and Roxanne, and you can get a free quote. What you want to do, it goes beyond a free quote. You want to set up a meeting. You want to show them the space. You can call Roxanne at 401-207-4124. They have great social media, both Facebook, Instagram, Arch Design Builders, 401-207-4124. Maybe you're thinking of a new kitchen. Maybe you're thinking of a new bathroom, basement, deck, or special project. Arch Design Builders. You're going to notice the Arch difference. 401-218-9707. You want to do business with people like Ed and Roxanne. You're going to feel comfortable doing business with people like Ed and Roxanne. They have clients that they've dealt with for years. They've had successful relationships with people. They started with a small project, and it just grows from there because it's about building trust, and you're going to love the result. Arch Design Builders, but it starts with the phone call and set up that meeting. Show them the space. Say, hey, here's the family room. What can we do? Here's our home. We'd like to incorporate another bedroom so when the grandchildren come by, they can stay here. Arch Design Builders, 401-207-4124. So, folks, it's 1:43 on this Monday. And once again, I was inside the courthouse for the Karen Reed trial, and I'm going to be back in there this afternoon. And actually, so what they do is they switch it out all week, each week. So where it breaks out in that manner, they rotate along with the different media. So ideally, different media get a chance to then be inside the courthouse. And I'm telling you right now, I could go on and on, but this is so different than where this was 1 year ago. Last year at this time, Adam Lally was the special prosecutor. And this was not a buffer zone enforced. And you had people, by the way, the crowds are not here. So last year at this time, there were a lot of people that were walking around and wearing their pink to show support for Karen Reed. What I'm telling you is, on this Monday, May 5th, now it's day 9 in the trial, what I'm telling you, and notice it's moving at a good pace, and Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, listen, not all attorneys are equal. David Yannetti, the defense attorney, he's got an effective way about him, but he's just not as involved as he was. So far, this is the Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan show, and it's the Alan Jackson show. And as I mentioned in a TikTok, there's a number of people, and they're grabbing at anything, tidbits. When one wall gets knocked down, they grab, they grab another wall. I used to watch, like a lot of people, on TV Land. I'd watch old episodes of Gilligan's Island. And there was an episode of Gilligan's Island where there was something happening and they had to keep going to different, I think they were under attack, different parts of the island. They'd run to a lagoon and there were natives coming and they'd say, let's go to the north side of the island, then we'll go to the east side of the island. And then Skipper would say, let's go to the south side of the island. Well, you're seeing that right now with the defense. The defense just keeps changing and evolving and moving. And there's so many people that are supporting Karen Read that it's as if they don't want to entertain what I would think is the obvious. And that is it possible that all these people are not involved in a conspiracy? Is it possible that she did hit him and leave him and is now trying to point the finger at other people? I don't know why people can't explore that it's not possible. So I also encourage people, stay within the guidelines of where the trial is. There are people that leap ahead. I want to knock down. I see this. People post it. The science is against it. The science says that didn't happen. I don't know. I have no idea what they're talking about because there has been no science introduced. They're getting that from somewhere. I think I know where they're getting it from, but they're getting that from somewhere and they just parrot it. Just say the science doesn't work. Just say blah, blah, blah. But as someone that is sitting in there each day, and I'm going to be back in, what I want to mention is I think the cell phone. The cell phone is so important. The cell phone, I didn't realize that they can track temperature of a cell phone. I didn't realize that I had the technology. There's nothing corrupt about that, by the way. I think years ago, they didn't have DNA evidence. We didn't have that type of technology. They continue to make advances with technology. And I can point to different examples. Years ago, law enforcement, they didn't have flock cameras. Now, flock cameras, Cranston has a bunch of them. Providence is starting to have them. More cities, you put them up and they can catch every license plate that goes by. And as a result of that, flock cameras get hit at certain places, right? Like all of a sudden Providence police will realize that a license plate, someone they're looking for, they triggered a flock camera on Broad Street. And so they know that they were there. I've been riding with the Cranston police when they say a vehicle they were looking for just triggered a flock camera at Park and wherever. So you didn't have that years ago. And as far as the cell phone, I didn't even realize that they have the technology where they can track that a cell phone is a certain temperature, and it would make sense, right? You're inside of a bar or a restaurant, you're in a heated vehicle, and then when you're out in the elements and the temperature is single digits, that the temperature of the cell phone is going to drop. As a matter of fact, before I upgraded my cell phone, when I would go for a long walk or run in the wintertime, if it was really, really cold out, it didn't work very well. Actually, I think it would shut off. Many times, by the way, when we're out on road patrol, if I keep your phone in the, put your cell phone in the sun, it can shut down the phone because it's too hot, and then you got to cool it down. So it works both ways. But my point is, I didn't realize that they could track someone's cell phone in that manner. And we had the expert that got up, and he made it very simple with the jury, and that was that they're tracking when he got out of the vehicle, and then it stopped moving, and it was over by the flagpole. And it was I'm telling you, it was very powerful. I believe if you're a member of the jury, you're sitting there watching, and this is now day 9. So it hasn't been that long, but I believe there's been a very effective version of events that have taken place. And that was that it happened by the flagpole, that he never entered the house. So I know some people are stuck on, some people are trying to say, well, then If it was cold with the phone, that's because he was in the garage and he was beaten to death. I, but you don't have anyone that puts him in the garage. You don't have one witness that said, I saw that guy go into that garage. By the way, some people shut down, oh, that person's a liar. Everybody's lying. I've covered trials where if there's one eyewitness, it's problematic. Jennifer Rivera, you remember the young girl who was executed the night before the Manny Pona murder trial? That was one witness that saw Manny Pona hop a fence. She was cooking soup on a Saturday afternoon in her South Providence home or apartment, and she heard gunshots. She looked out the window and she saw Manny Pona hopping a fence. That was one eyewitness. And then they found Manny Pona's pager and he had tried to burn a Jeep later. There's an episode of The Sopranos where Tony is freaked. Why? Because there's one witness that could describe and place Tony Soprano at the scene. Don't you understand? There are multiple people here. You have the Katie McLaughlin from this morning. You had Nuttall. You have Jen McCabe. You have Kerry Roberts. Again, people, you can believe whatever you want. But if you follow the trial and its evidence and testimony, so far, they have introduced what I believe to be a very easy to understand story. And it's an easy to understand story of what took place. And we haven't seen, let's see if we see some more Karen clips. A lot of people are knocking the fact that Karen Reed did all those interviews. But at the time, the reason why I'm gonna push back on that a little bit. At the time, look at the number of people that were influenced by it. So it's a double-edged sword. Of course it's damaging to her, and of course she said some things that are very incriminating, but at the same time they did influence a lot of people, and that's how they learned about the trial. Now people are saying they don't think all the interviews were a good idea, but at the time it did seem to be effective. Now folks, this portion of the program, summer will be coming. Kids Club on the Pike. Now Kids Club on the Pike, for your child or grandchild, they run a great summer camp. Now, Kids Club on the Pike, it's right off of 295. It's on Plainfield Pike. And it is a perfect spot for birthday party venue, before and after school care, preschool, Kids Club on the Pike, but they also run a great summer camp. So maybe it's for your children for a week. Maybe it's for a month. Maybe it's the entire summer. Kids Club on the Pike. I heard from Natalie, her grandson's cousin is going to be coming to stay with them, and the parents work or whatever's going on anyhow, so they're going to book them both. They want to book both of them, the cousin coming in from wherever and the grandson into Kids Club on the Pike. Folks, call Kristen 401-443-5336, 401-443-5336. They have a great social media presence. It's Kids Club on the Pike. Well, folks, good afternoon. Again, rainy Monday, and we're going to be back inside for the Karen Reed retrial, which I would argue, and caution people, listen, there's a long way to go. These things can change when the defense gets their turn, when the defense gets to put on their case, when the defense gets to put on their witnesses. But so far, 9 days in, I believe Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan has weaved together a very easy to understand story. And it's very compelling. And notice the witnesses move much quicker. A lot of the witnesses that last year were on for hours on end are, boom, gone. Ryan Negan, done, right? Sarah Levinson, off the stand. So they move through, and each witness continues to paint this picture. As far as for those that are, whatever reason, whether they're rooting for the defense, so far, we don't have anyone that can put him in the house. And what I also just don't think is effective, I don't think it's effective, is Defense Attorney Alan Jackson attacking first responders and Jen McCabe, who was trying to save the life of John O'Keefe. I don't know. It is a mystery to me how they find that that's going to be successful. These were people that were called out. It's a 911. They're working. They go. This whole business of someone knew the homeowner. Folks, I'll also just say this. Think in your own life. I don't know about you. I can't speak for anyone that's watching. And again, remember, you can listen AM 1380 or 99.9 FM. Or right now, we're live on YouTube, we're live on X, and we're live on Facebook. I would not agree to be part of a murder conspiracy. And if, in fact, this was a murder conspiracy where all these various people are involved, do you realize, there's jail involved with that? Do you realize you lose everything you have? I can't think of, not even an organized crime. Is there someone that doesn't crack and break? So this business that all these people, but I want to come back to, as of right now, they don't have him in the house. And I see people put comments saying, well, all the witnesses are lying. I haven't seen that shown. Just this business of what Kerry Roberts said or Jen McCabe, it's their testimony. Their testimony is believable. That's the bottom line. The witnesses that they're putting on are believable witnesses. And especially this morning. I think the Commonwealth is off to, someone asked me, how's it going this morning? I said, they are breezing through this Monday, and it's just more of the same. Folks, this portion of our program, I want to remind you about quality asphalt seal coating. Call Corey today, 401-283-9815. Quality asphalt seal coating, 401-283-9815. Now, what do they do? Well, they could resurface a tennis court. They could resurface a basketball court. They could resurface a pickleball court. They can offer crack filling, pothole repair, line striping. They can make your pavement look like new. They also epoxy garages and patios, and they do decorative concrete flooring. Call them, free quote. If you're listening or watching on this Monday, quality, they also, good social media presence, quality asphalt seal coating, 401-283-9815, 401-283-9815 for quality. It's asphalt seal coating. Call Corey. Also, quick reminder, folks, my grass looks fantastic. You know why? Lawn Doctor. Call them. Lawn Doctor Rhode Island. Your best lawn ever guaranteed. And take advantage right now, the premium 8 service program, Lawn Doctor, online at lawndoctor.com. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to monitor the news later. We're coming up, if you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Everyone else, we may do a live stream later. I'm not sure yet, but I'm going to go back into the courthouse. And also, we do have an update on the Pawtucket firefighter situation later on DePetro.com. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. Everyone else, we will be back later. Probably do some kind of a live stream. Stay dry on this Monday.